Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. We are happy to see so many participants from basically all parts of the world. My name is Carsten Wolf, and I'm the Regional Director for Elis Retail in Europe. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar and to hear more about the challenges that fashion retailers face and on the solutions we have to offer to deal with those challenges. We are doing this webinar jointly with K3, our Elis Retail Diamond partner in UK. They have been very successful in the fashion industry in UK using Microsoft Dynamics and Elis Fashion Solutions. Therefore, I would also like to welcome Senior Consultant Tom Buren from K3. In the last year, Tom and I have been conducting a series of retail workshops for the retailers in UK. The webinar we present today is based on an abstract from those workshops. But before we start, first a few practical issues regarding this webinar. You will be muted during the webinar to make sure we have the best sound during the presentation. Please ask questions by typing them into the questions window that you can find in the control panel in the GoToWebinar session. Time permitting, we will have a Q&A session in the end of the webinar, and we'll do our very best to answer all of your questions. If we do not finish answering your questions, we will do so in writing after the webinar. This session is also being recorded, and you will receive a link to the session shortly after the session ends. Once again, thank you for joining. Deloitte & Touche has made a survey about the mega trends in retail. Not surprisingly, mobile retailing, faster retailing, and improvement of the retail experience and innovative retailing are on the top first items on this list. Of course, this has led us to call this webinar "Have you outgrown your retail technology?" We will assume that most of the retailers already have a basic structure in place, and we will start from there. First of all, a couple of words about Elis Retail. Elis Retail have been in this business for 25 years. Our solutions, which are based on Microsoft technology, are sold by 250 partners around the world, and many of you have signed in for this webinar. One of the partners is K3. K3 have been a top performing partner for Elis Retail for almost 20 years, and we are cooperating through the offices in UK, Holland, and the Middle East. Over 4,000 companies with more than 65,000 stores across 120 countries are using our solutions. Among the customers we have together with K3 in fashion is Armani Exchange, The White Company, Gives and Hawkes, Hodder, Joseph, White Stuff, etc. Among the 4,000 customers of Elis Retail, about 20% of them are in fashion and apparel. So I think it's safe to say that over the years we have built a considerable amount of knowledge and experience with this particular business. As many of you know, this solution is extremely flexible and also very scalable. It scales from single stores with one or few point of sales into international chains with corporate head office, regional offices in the countries, and networks of stores in those countries. This is a setup which is very commonly used in international fashion retailing. Among our customers in this area, you would find customers like, for example, Adidas. What sets us apart from the competition is that we have been collecting all the functionality needed to service this business and make it work together in a seamless integration in an end-to-end solution. But the industry has changed. With introducing the millennials, consumers that have been basically online all their life, we have seen a disrupting of the retail industry. The millennials require their shopping experience to be everywhere, available at any time. They request to have the same price through different channels. They want to have a personalized experience in the store, in the loyalty program, and in the interaction with the stores. That has complicated our business. In the old days, it was very easy. We had a consumer. The consumer went to a store, purchased the goods, and paid through a point of sale. With a new consumer, this has become a little more complex. We will have consumers who usually receive through one channel or another different types of offers, in many cases very personalized, based on previous purchases or based on preferences in the mobile loyalty program. This consumer can select to purchase the item in the closest store, just like we know. But the consumer can also select to use the store's e-commerce, buy the dress through a store's website, or use a mobile e-commerce through mobile phones. But the new consumer is connected. So the new consumer will interact with the store and with friends and other people in the loyalty program. And this is where our story starts. To present this story from end to end, Tom Bjørn is going to take you through the new retail shopping experience. Tom, will you please take over from here? Thank you very much from me.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks very much, Carsten, for the introduction. I hope everything's okay, and you can see my screen, and we're ready to get running. So like we said, we've been working with LS Retail at K3 for quite some time now, and we've been working at the forefront trying to progress and trying to sell some of the innovative solutions that LS Retail have been creating. So what we're going to start off with is a quick agenda so we can see what we're going to be covering off today. The whole subject is, have you outgrown your retail technology? So we're looking at ways in which we can use some of the new omnichannel technology to help further what our customers are trying to do. In terms of an agenda, we've got about half an hour, 45 minutes to cover off a few points. So we're going to start off looking at some of the retail challenges and trends facing fashion retail at the moment. Then we're going to have a look at some of the retail journey and how that's changed over the last few years. As we know, technology has leaped forward in leaps and bounds at an exponential rate over the last few years. So making sure we keep pace with that and making sure we keep pace with what's changing is even more important than ever. What we'll then talk about is an LS Omni sort of continuous loop of customer engagement, and then we'll jump into a demonstration showing some of these solutions in practice. So we'll be showing the mobile POS, we'll be showing the mobile loyalty applications, we're showing e-commerce, we're showing a click-collect procedure, and how that all integrates seamlessly with the POS itself. Then after that, we're going to have a quick chat about some of the new things which LS Retail are bringing to the fore. So there's some very powerful technology around machine learning and Cortana analytics, which allows us to leverage some of the intelligence that sits behind the Azure platform. Like Carsten said earlier on, if we have any questions going through things, feel free to type them in the chat box and the guys will reply to you. Otherwise, we'll have time for a Q&A section at the end where we'll do our best to answer any questions you may have. So first thing is this change in the retail landscape in terms of mobility and technology. So one of the obvious things is the way in which we interact with brands. If you look back a few years, maybe 8, 9, 10 years, e-commerce was only in its infancy. We used to be sitting on a computer, maybe sit at the end of the day and buy something from Amazon. With the advent of mobility and smartphones and the real usability of smartphones that has changed so dramatically over the last few years that now we're at the point where things are really, really changing. 92% of all phones will be smartphones by 2017. Mobile commerce is predicted to grow annually on an annual rate by 40% to 2017. One of the points Carson made about millennials is that 75% of the global workforce will be millennials by 2025. It's only 1 in 3 now. So these are people that have grown up with technology from the day dot, to the point where my daughter started off with touchscreens. She expects that kind of very, very intuitive interaction. Also, quite importantly, people nowadays are much more prepared to pay for a better experience. It's not just about the bottom line, it's not just about cost, it's about how we engage with people and how we improve that process. Click and collect is a massively important thing as well. It's been growing hugely in the UK as a way and means of getting people into store, and in terms of getting access to inventory, stock levels and information that you just wouldn't normally get on a normal e-commerce sale. The big one, I think, is the 51%. So 51% of all e-commerce sales were mobile. I think it was 49 desktop, 18 mobile phone and 33% by tablet, which is a huge growth considering in 2010, just a year later from when the iPhone came out, it was only 0.9%. Also, companies with an omni strategy have a much better retention rate. Some of the statistics we got from Deloitte and from the retail, we say that 89% of customers versus 33% without a strategy. Now, most companies we talk to have got a strategy and have started implementing various components of this. But one of the real powers and strengths of the LS Retail solution is the fact that it's completely interconnected. All the various applications all come from the Omni server, and we can interconnect the POS, the mobile POS, the loyalty, the desktop, and the back office all seamlessly and have visibility from the top down right to the bottom. So what we're going to do is have a look at this journey. So the shopping journey has changed and it unfolds in different devices in different ways. So we have this whole cycle which starts off with awareness, with advertising, promotions, investing time in getting to know our customers, so that when it comes to that consideration phase and the evaluation phase, our retailers are at the forefront of their minds. I always joke about this because I've got what my wife calls an overdeveloped sense of buyer's remorse, which kicks in before I've even bought something. So for me, the consideration and evaluation phase is really quite big. That brings you on to the buying process. Now, buying is much shorter. It used to be, as Carsten said, you come into a store, you browse, you pick up what you want, and you buy it. Nowadays, that process has got to be seamless. It's got to be familiar across every single device, doesn't matter how we integrate with a business. Then the post-purchase and relationship management is also fundamentally important. So with things like membership management and the loyalty management, it allows us to not just get data from e-commerce, which is easy, but harvesting data and information about our customers and what they like and what they don't like and how they want to buy. That kind of information is hugely powerful, which helps drive our marketing. So we come into this kind of loop. Now, you could look at that as a challenge, as a difficulty, but we tend to look at it as an opportunity to build relationships at every single stage of the purchase process. So the LS Retail solution as a whole, many of you might have already come across it, but just to give you an idea of the scope, it's built on the Windows platform, so it's fairly clear that it's easy to use from the outset. And it's also built on Microsoft Dynamics Nav ERP system. So Dynamics Nav has this kind of outer ring which manages servicing, financial management, purchase order processing, warehouse management, and sales and marketing. Where LS come in is they add in this really powerful layer which makes it perfect for retail. So we're managing elements from the customer-facing side, so things like the mobile loyalty apps, things like the e-commerce, things like the front office with the Nav POS, the mobile POS, and also, importantly, the new mobile inventory apps, which have been made much, much more improved recently. Then obviously you have the back office processes, so things like replenishment, open-to-buy planning, commissions, special order management, member management. All of these things are fundamentally important to providing the service we're looking for our customers. Then also the back office as well. So this loop of customer engagement, it always starts off with the customer. I keep coming back to the customer because effectively they are the most important person in the whole process. We're here to make money as retailers. That's obviously a clear thing. But how we do that has to be putting the customer first, has to be putting their feelings and their opinions and their desires first. So we come into the shop. We can use this as a means of creating sales interactions, building relationships and confidence, and learning attributes about the customer. What that then does is, because we've harvested information, harvesting is a bad word because it sounds like I'm a farmer, but effectively the more information we have, the better experience we can give. So we can create different clubs, different schemes, different ways in which we can sell to customers. So a gold, silver or bronze scheme, we can move them up and down through different levels. You then have the ability to market more effectively to people. We all get lots of spam emails, or what we think of as spam emails, coming from retailers, from businesses that want our business. And personally, I've always found Amazon to be very impressive at this, because they're the one company whose emails I actually read. And the reason for that is because they target things properly. They know what I've been looking at. They take browsing data. They take information about what I've been researching. And so they actually give me surface deals which are relevant to what I'm looking for. So personalization of marketing offers and how we deliver those is hugely important. So the ability to interact with customers either by email, but also by more modern means like Twitter, Facebook, are all things provided for by the LS platform. Then finally, what we then got to do is give people benefits. So give people a reason to want to keep remaining customers. So we can actually give them personal benefits. So we can give them loyalty points, specific pricing, discount pricing, gifts, coupons, and also publishing the offers which mean something to them as a customer in themselves. And all this is capable within the LS solution. So what we're going to be doing first is we've got this demonstration we're going to go through. So the demo is effectively looking at the omnichannel experience using the tools provided by LS Retail. We're going to wait for the page to refresh a second. So we're going to be looking at LS POS. We're going to be having a quick look at e-commerce. We're going to be using the mobile point of sale as well as the mobile loyalty applications. And we're going to go through a bit of a sort of a sales cycle. So we're going to start off looking at the mobile POS, and we'll do some transactions, and then we're going to show the suspension of transactions back to a point of sale terminal. We're then going to call back the transaction. We're going to go through that sale process. We're going to be doing some e-receipting with HTML emails. We're then going to show how that kind of seamlessly integrates with pushing the idea of using the mobile loyalty applications. Then from the loyalty applications, we're going to go through and show how easy it is to use and how flexible it is, where the benefits lie with that as well. Then going through a click and collect process and showing how some of the new technology within LS shows how we can call back those transactions and then process them. So first thing we're going to start with is with my phone, because this is where most transactions seem to begin these days. So the first thing we're going to be having a look at is the mobile point of sale. Mobile point of sale will be branded by customer. So we have our K3 Retail branded, but it could well be your own. And from here we can sign in. Now the cool thing is it's managed in exactly the same way as normal point of sale terminal. So if you're already using LS, it's quite easy to get the hang of the setup in the back office. We can search for items. I can go and find particular items with all the imagery that's coming from our central office. Obviously within the LS back office, in the product management, we have a central way of managing things. So we have top-down visibility of stock. We can see where the stock lies, which stores the stocks have. If we wanted to, we can kind of look at HTML detail that's being pulled through from the item master. So the idea that we can centrally manage HTML data, product images, prices, promotions, and drive them out to all of the different channels from one central repository is one of the hugely powerful processes. So we're going to finish this transaction off. We're going to pay by cash, by card, but also we can suspend the transaction if we want to. So what this will do is it will effectively hold the transaction back and send it to the cash register. So we're going to now flip over to the cash register and look at how that works in practice. So I'm just logging into the cash register now. And one of the new features in LS Nav last year was the ability to have retail messaging. Now this can be used for various different purposes, but also we can have the suspended transactions coming back from the mobile POS. So I'm going to retrieve this transaction. I can see that the bag that I've been looking for is ready. I can then drill into it. Some of the new features in the POS means that we can drill into items and have a look at more detailed product imagery. We can pull the HTML data from the product master as well and embed that into the image. We can also then have the swipeable POS, which allows us to go left and right and have more detailed product information. Or if we want to go left, we can have more information about the customer that we're engaging with. This is obviously a brand new customer and we're trying to give them a nice experience. So we're going to total this off and I'm just going to have a cash transaction here. Now in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay for the item by cash, but we're going to have a receipt by email. Now we can choose whether we want to have a printed receipt or an email receipt, but in practice, most customers aren't willing to give lots and lots of personal detail at the point of sale. But most people are quite happy to give their email address, as we've seen from people like Apple, who do it as a routine task. So what this is going to have now, we're going to flip out to my phone again so you can see this email receipt. Just waiting for the screen to refresh. Okay. So this receipt now is an email receipt, but it's also an HTML email receipt. So we're having nice branded information which sell us as a business, but we've still got a copy of the PDF, which is the actual receipt itself. So I can see the receipt, I can hold on to it for future use. But where we're adding some extra value here is we're having the ability to go and link us to our website. So we're saying, why don't you go and download our application, we can give you special discounts. So from here, this is the Realize e-commerce application based on LS e-commerce. And from here I can go and download the applications. It's a kind of a here's one I prepared earlier, because when you have the real application, it'll be sitting on the Apple Store as your own brand. It won't be an LS app or a K3 app, it will be your own branded app. So from here we now have the LS Loyalty app, which has been downloaded and installed. At the sign up, we can enter some information about ourselves, name, email address, passwords. But also what's quite powerful here is the ability to have information about profiles. So depending what kind of retailer I am, if I'm a fashion retailer, I could have men or female. I could have high fashion. I can have different kind of profiles which relate to what I'm looking for as a customer. And what that allows us to do is to kind of make sure when we're doing promotions, when we're doing schemes, when we're doing different loyalty deals, we can actually target the right things to the right kind of people. So inside of the app, we have various different areas we can look at. So what I'm going to first of all look at is coupons. This is where there is more value using an app than a mobile website. A mobile website, you would have to be signed in constantly, whereas for a mobile app, it means we have that customer's information and we can target down specific coupons or offers or deals right down to the person, which is personalized. And we'll talk a bit more about personalization and how we can go to the next stage with that with some stuff later on in the presentation. We can scroll through. Anyone that's familiar with the LS demo data, you can see this quite a wide-ranging shop selling everything from pills right the way down to tables. So in the search functionality, what we can do is we can search for items, and it won't just search the item, but search any deals or any special coupons I've got. Now, I made a mistake here, and I went and bought the one which is not got the deal on it. But I can look at the item. I can see which of my stores have the stock, and I can look at the inventory levels. I can drill down and see where those stores are. So when I look at where the stores are, I can see which ones have got stock and how far away they are. I can even get directions to the store if I want to as well. If I want to, I can add things to my wish list, which mean that we can see what people are wish listing, which might indicate that pricing might not be correct. But also, we can add things to the basket and use this not just as a loyalty application, but also as a fully fledged e-commerce platform. So from here, what we're going to do is proceed with the transaction. And the transaction is now going to give me the choice of whether I want to do a home delivery or a click and collect. So I'm going to choose click and collect, and I can see which stores have got stock. So I'm going to go and pick my local store, and I'm going to go and place my order. So what will happen now is this is going to push down a message to my point of sale. So we're going to flip back into the point of sale application, and we're going to go and see how that works in practice. The retail messaging that I spoke about earlier will give us a notification if there's any messages. So what I've got now is a click and collect order ready for picking. So I can go and select that order and process that message. And what that will do is give me the option now to go and say where I want the item to be collected from. So I can go and place and process it. In reality, we're going to print a slip off with a picking list, or in the future, we're going to be able to have that data pushed down to the mobile applications in store for picking as well. What will now happen is my customer wants to be notified that their item is ready for collection. So this can be done either by email, but I'm going to be using the integrated notification functionality within the app itself. So my customer now gets their app, and they can see they've got a QR code there. So when they come in store, they can scan it to make themselves known as to who they are, which then streamlines the process of click and collect functionality in store, instead of having to have lots of bits of paper where people are having to scroll through the paper, find out which order's which, and then crossing it out with a pencil. Now my customer comes back into the store. I can see items to collect. I can see my order is ready to be collected. I can select it and collect the order. What this is now going to do is going to add the transaction to the POS terminal, and I can go and finish this transaction as per normal. So that basically concludes our click and collect process. The last thing you'll notice is that it knows who I am. I've already recognized myself as the customer, so it's going to remember my email address and automatically send me my email receipt as well. And we kind of, at that point, conclude the whole cycle of that process. It's been a very quick run through this process, but if anyone would like to see it in more detail, we'd be happy to show you, so please get in touch with either K3 or LS. So The next thing we're going to go on to now, whilst I just have a quick sip of water, is the LS recommendations and machine learning. Now, personally, I find this extremely exciting. As I said earlier, in-store retail always used to be kind of the dark retail in terms of where data comes, because people come into a store, they spend their money and they leave, which means we're only getting metrics on sales data. If we start using things like membership management, if we start using some of the technology that LS Retail are providing us with, it means we have much more detail about customers, about their shopping habits, which helps us within our buying and merchandising, helps us with our pricing and promotions, and effectively helps us give a better experience to customers, which is what we're all looking for. So, first thing we'll talk about is data and what we do with data and information. So typically we do a lot of presentations where we talk through business intelligence and what that data means. And historically, most people we talk to start off with static reports. People know what information they're looking for. They have tabular data. So we create a report which is going to give us data on stuff that we know we want to see, which then gives us value, granted, but it's still a manual process, which at the end of the process gets us to a decision-making procedure. Next stage on from that is interactive dashboards. So using things like Target BI or using things like Power BI in order to give us a visualization of that data, which is much more valuable because humans are much better at looking at data in images and on screen than they are at looking in numbers, which is an obvious thing. The next stage on from that is using things like predictions. So what would happen if? So within Target and Power BI, we can do things like a what-if analysis to see what would happen if I did a certain thing, and how would that impact on my bottom line, how would that impact on margins and my ability to make profit. But fundamentally, that's still getting to the same point of humans making a decision. What's really exciting now is some of the technology that's becoming to the fore and becoming available to people in the round with Cortana Analytics and machine learning, and with some of the APIs available from Microsoft on Azure platform. Some of the recommendations and the decision automation and the decision support gives us a huge increase in value, reducing the amount of time humans have to spend doing stuff and putting the onus back onto machines, which are actually getting very good at it. So to give you an idea of where this is coming from and how we're looking at this kind of intelligent action, we have various different business applications and custom applications and sensors and devices. So think of business applications like Dynamics Nav, like CRM, like your back office processes, and that gives us valuable data. As do custom applications, so things like mobile loyalty, mobile POS, and any other apps that you might be using as well. Then we then have various sensors and devices. Now the sensors and devices might be things like routers in store, which are tracking MAC addresses. They might be screens, they might be, there's all sorts of tools available now for in-store technology. What we then do is we use the Cortana Analytics APIs, and we can use that to create action and do stuff with it, importantly. So, as we said before, taking that data and providing visualizations of that information within Power BI and Target. We have, obviously, the personal digital assistant, which for most people is what Cortana is. When I talk to somebody about Cortana, they think of it as this funny little thing on Windows 10 that I don't really use that much. But if you're not using it now, you certainly will see it used much more often in the future, because it might seem simplistic at the moment, and it might seem like it's just a thing within Windows 10, but the power and intelligence that sits beneath it really is something to behold. We then come into things like perceptual intelligence, facial recognition, speech recognition, which then has value for people. What we're looking at there, and where LS is taking it in the first instance, is how we can take that data and that process and how we can use it in business scenarios. So we can use automated systems like recommendations, like customer churn, like forecasting, and where we can go with that data means it gives us a huge amount more value. So when we look at things like pre-configured solutions, so what LS are doing now is creating some pre-configured solutions, and these solutions are ways in which we can take that data and use it in the real world within retail. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is the recommendations engine. And recommendations is one of the many APIs that Microsoft provided on the Azure platform using machine learning. And LS have looked at a way of using it in a very sophisticated and quite an elegant way. And it will be coming out soon. You might have to ask Carsten and Eloise for the release dates, but I'm sure they'll be able to give you that very soon. But in practice, here's how it's going to work. Now you saw we have the Omni server. Now the Omni server, think of it as a hub. Think of it as something which connects our business together. We have one central ERP system, which is Microsoft Dynamics Nav. We then have the Omni server, which is an integral part of that, which means the information is shared. The information is visible from the top right at the very top of the financials, and we can drill right the way down to the transaction register and see exactly what's happened on a payment version. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking that transactional data, and we have that data in the LS Nav back office. We then have this thing called LS Recommends, which is a system which sits on a subscription service from Azure Machine Learning, which is powered by Azure. And LS have created it in such a way where we take our setup and admin from LS Nav, so all the setup is done in one place. That then pumps all of that into the LS Recommends machine learning. We then also, importantly, get browsing data. So we've got information from the Omni server. So we've got mobile POS, we've got mobile loyalty, we've got e-commerce data, and also obviously standard POS data as well. What that will then do is that will then bring back data on the model in use, but also importantly, it's going to give us recommendation statistics. So the recommendations can then be surfaced in various different platforms. So that can be surfaced on the mobile POS, it can be surfaced on the mobile loyalty, it can be surfaced on e-commerce and also on the point of sale, giving our store assistants much more power and ability to recommend the correct items to the correct people, based not just upon simplistic things like linked items or related items, but also supplying that data based on actual intelligent recommendations. What we can then do is take that data, so information on the recommendation activity log, and put that into BI itself, along with information on the statistics used, which gives us some hugely powerful information. So in practice, how's it going to work? So the recommendation engine, if we're not using member management, now when we think of member management, we talk to companies with membership groupings, they think of it as CRM, and it kind of is CRM, but in a different kind of way. It's a membership management designed to really get the most out of the LS retail system. At the membership management, we're going to get item-to-item recommendations, so items based on a single item, so similar things, and then also item-to-basket, so recommendation based on items in a shopping basket. And this is driven by item data and sales data. If we do have member management in use, we also have the ability to do an item to member, so recommending items based on a member's sales and browsing history as well. So effectively what we're doing is we're taking three core elements of data. So we're taking sales data, we're taking customer data, and we're taking catalog data, so information about the items in my inventory. And we can use that to then surface it to the customers. So we can also use item to basket with member. So it's recommending items based on items in the basket and also on the member's sales and browsing history. So you can see how this might be useful in a business, having that one holistic view of what's going on. So as an example, here I'm using a fashion POS layout. And what we're going to be doing is just literally having a recommendation. So we'll have a pop-up on the POS, which is going to tell me we have a recommendation of items that might match or might be sold regularly with the item. There's so many uses for this. It's worthwhile sitting down and investigating how you want to use it, because there's such a lot of power here. The mind boggles with what we can do with it. We can also use it on the e-commerce as well. So on the e-commerce platform, we can start surfacing information and making that information visible on the actual device. So here I'm sitting in a screen. If I just scroll down the screen a bit, what we're going to get to is information about recommendations built into the e-commerce platform itself. Okay, so just to kind of wrap up what we've gone through, it's been a bit whistle-stop. We've had a lot of information to get through, but the fundamentals that we're talking about is really personalizing the approach for fashion retail, making sure we can give the right information to the right people in the right way, personalizing the experience, but also at the same time as having that core focus of getting information to customers, bringing that information back and using it internally to help us effectively make more money and increase our margins. So I'm going to wrap up there and say thanks very much for giving the opportunity to run through this with you all. Okay, thank you very much.